Me that Kronk is the most quotable character from The Emperor's New Groove. He's so dumb, but he's so quotable. Anyway, hi Pazer, welcome. I hope you're enjoying your backstage experience of the Jonathan Baruch stream. I don't know what that means, but I hope you're enjoying it. Let's start with, just gonna go back to my old comfort word. I really hate starting with a yellow E and a yellow A. I'm like, I don't know where to put these. I know you already know this one, because you did it, after Kill la Kill yesterday. Sir, we have already run out of the champagne. I only got one bottle, I'm sorry. Wait, aren't you the only one here? Jeez, lay off. Slow down, friend. Later. Nope, no R. Mated? That works. Pedal. Woo! Look at that! I did the thing. Anyway. Here we are. It is time for another stream of pretend the bookmark's not there. It's just like a pay stub from a job. Eat the strawberries. Face your challenges with Zenish calm and confidence by, wow, you cannot see that at all, can you? By Bennett, my dad. Hi, Lackery. Hello. How are ya? Like a champ! You know, seeing champ in all caps like that makes me think, champ's probably been a Wordle word at this point. So, we left off toward the end of the Key Concepts chapter. Yes, we're still in the Key Concepts chapter. The Key Concepts chapter is like most of what we've read so far. It's fucking long. That's weird that... Did it just change to Moonlit Wilderness in the top corner? Because we're 40 seconds into this track. That's weird. Is this a spoiler-free stream? I guess? I mean, unless... It's a non-fiction book, so... I think so. Oh, you're a chord. Okay. I was like, Lackery sounds familiar, but not super familiar. Good to see you. No, you're not gonna start an ad break. We just fucking started. Snooze that. Okay. So, we were talking about key concepts. Most recently, we were reading about Nirvana and optimism. So this section is called Meditation and Nirvana. A great way to practice peace and clarity of mind is to schedule yourself for daily meditation when you don't need it. Meditation is an activity that has been scientifically documented to produce a psychophysiological state conducive to rest and recovery, calm, and insight. There is nothing mystical about it. There are many free and inexpensive sources for learning to meditate, and some expensive ones. You might take an online or in-person course, participate in an employee benefits program, attend a retreat in an exotic location, or read a book about it. In my personal estimation, most meditation instruction is not very good. Many meditation teachers are deeply mired in mystical nonsense. Many of them repeat by rote one particular method they were trained in with no understanding of how the psychophysiological state of meditation is actually achieved, and no ability to tune their chosen method to each individual student. Is the music a bit loud? How'd that? Is that better? Trick question it is, because I'm looking at the reading and it must be. Often the method is so prescriptive that it is an explicit principle to stay on script and not alter anything per student. Hold on. Shifting the mic a little bit. There you go. As if the technique is a magical incantation and not a tool. Thus, if you try any given approach to meditation and don't have a satisfying experience, try a different method or teacher. If you can't meditate because your mind won't settle down, that just means you have not yet found the right instructor. Consider my upcoming book, Even You Can Meditate. I don't think that's published yet. Meditation is a skill, like playing guitar. No, thank you for telling me. Meditation is a skill like playing guitar. When I was in the 6th grade, I took group guitar lessons for several months. I was so good at it that my teacher took my guitar away, put a small drum in my lap, and asked me to see if I could just manage to hit it on the beat. Yeah, that bad. In my teen years, I borrowed a guitar, and with my retained knowledge of some easy chords, I tried to play a popular song that I liked. When I could not very quickly recreate the sounds of a studio-produced recording of professional musicians, I came to the obvious conclusion that I was a person who simply could not play guitar. I knew it would take practice over years to become excellent, but I had a baseless assumption that right from the very beginning I had to be pretty good at it, or there was no hope in trying to learn. Pretty dumb, I know. Why do I tell you this? Because this is how most people view meditation. If I can't do it pretty well within a few tries, I obviously cannot do it at all. As just noted, this is a pretty ridiculous conclusion. Everyone can meditate, even you. If you want to learn to meditate, you will have to shop around to find what works well for you. But don't imagine that you can't do it. That's just not right. There are a zillion ways to meditate. You just need to find one of the ones that happens to be easy for you to learn. This can be time-consuming and frustrating, but once you do that, you will be able to learn other ways more easily too. I feel the same way about acting, for what it's worth. I think that a lot of acting teachers feel that their way is the only way. Even those who know that their way isn't the only way, they may not be able to teach in any other way. And I feel that the best acting instruction I've ever gotten has just been continuing to act. I am glad I took classes. I definitely needed them. But classes are not enough. You really do have to apply critical thinking and understand that you are the only expert in you. The Vivi poster in the back, yeah, is beautiful. That was one thing where I just I think I was on set and I realized that I was going to have overtime that day, and I just felt like looking up posters, and I just looked up posters, and I found that one. I was like, yeah, that's where my overtime's going. That was like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. I've had that poster a long time. I was usually good at things as a child, so now if I try something new and it doesn't go well right away, I just drop it again. It's really hard not to. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for Him, Jordan Peele's upcoming movie, but there's a line in there where a character says it's something along the lines of, talent is the willingness to work hard, and I think that's really, really true. Like, don't get me wrong, some people do just have a higher starting point than others, but in terms of having the talent to be great at something, that is raw determination. What makes you talented or not at something in the long run is whether or not it's interesting enough to you to keep doing it. You have a tattoo on your arm of BD? That's cute. Where were we? You already do something related to meditation. Everyone does. Meditation is a kind of trance. You might associate the word trance with hypnosis, but it is also applicable to many common experiences that you have definitely had. Maybe you have been reading and lost track of time and didn't even hear when someone called your name. You can swap out the word reading with playing a video game, watching a movie, getting a massage, doing some creative work, or performing any attention-absorbing activity. Meditation is a particular kind of trance, distinct from reading a book, playing a video game, or hypnosis, but they each produce an altered state of consciousness. When you place easily concentrated attention on peace and clarity, when you place especially concentrated attention on peace and clarity, you are engaging in a great type of meditation. One useful starting point would be to attempt this while a pet that you deeply love is asleep on your lap. Another form of meditation is when you concentrate on nothing at all, allowing everything that comes to mind come and also go without attachment, judgment, or commentary. Not incidentally, this is also very peaceful and calm. Reminds me of that actress from Andor going the rounds now. Culture war aside, I think it's horrible that forcing herself to act out of character really knocked her out of the groove. Did a number on her confidence. If I remember correctly, she couldn't find work for a few years. I'll be real, I have no idea what we're talking about. Mandalorian makes more sense though, because Andor hasn't been out for that long, but I still have no idea what we're talking about. But I'll take your word for it. My current way to meditate right now is listening to Jonathan. I am not a great meditation inducer, at least not in the streams I've done so far. But it means a lot to me that it brings you that much comfort. Most forms of Buddhism hold that we already have Buddha nature within us, that we are already enlightened, and we need to clear out the obstacles to experiencing that which is already so. Let's apply this same idea to the calm, restful, restorative, creative state of mind associated with meditation. We have just noted that you have experienced trance many times in your life, so this is not something outside of you. It's already in you right now, but not easy to access on demand until you have become practiced at doing that. Instead of trying to create it or achieve it or obtain it, recall that it is something that you already do, already have inside of you, and you just need to casually uncover it and join it with a minimum of effort. Katay Sackhoff, she was cast as the ginger character who was Obi-Wan's love interest in the Clone Wars show. Okay. I still don't know who we're talking about. I don't really pay attention to celebrity news or news in general these days, which I understand is, like, privileged and possibly problematic, but I know what I'm doing. I'm taking care of my mental health. Let's also think about nirvana in less rarefied terms. Don't construe it as something hard to reach, unknown by you, once in a lifetime, if you are lucky, mystical state. Recall a moment when you've already had it, however fleetingly. Perhaps when you were 8 years old, you were lying on your back on the grass on a summer day looking up at the clouds extremely relaxed. Lying there, you were not thinking about anything that bothered you, or anything that you needed to do, or anything you wanted but did not have. Perhaps you were enjoying a sense of contentment and the balmy breeze. Is that not nirvana? One sec. Gotta blow my nose. Gross. Hi, Asuka. Welcome. We are reading from my dad's book again. Where were we? Maybe cuddling a contented, sleepy baby is nirvana. Perhaps post-coital bliss is nirvana. Is intense satisfaction after an extraordinarily delicious meal a small taste of nirvana? Oh yeah, this is my dad's book. Got a Final Fantasy XVI art book today? Sweet. I bet that's beautiful. I pinned a link to the book in the chat if that is interesting to anybody. When I learned that the plural of cactus was cacti, I thought the plural of Icarus was Icari. Okay. Maybe nirvana and enlightenment are not the nearly unattainable reserved for the few complex religious experiences we make them out to be. Turn on repeat for the playlist. Maybe nirvana and enlightenment are experiences all of us can and do have repeatedly, frequently, right in the midst of ordinary life, just in small doses. Maybe we don't see them for what they are because some wrong definitions hide them from us, because we expect them to be gigantic. In a cartoon by Vaughn Tomlinson, a dog seeks advice from a guru dog on a mountaintop and is told, "Do not chase the tail, for the tail is already yours." Are we chasing our own tails when we grasp at nirvana as if it is not already part of us? How much wisdom, how much enlightenment do we fail to see within as we turn our blindered eyes to only look outside of ourselves? Complete, perfect nirvana and enlightenment are mythological, but serenity, deep insight, and compassion are frequently lived experiences in the real world. We foolishly undervalue them because they are not mythically large. Seek and recognize nirvana and enlightenment within this lifetime, within this day, within this hour. Seek them by more and more often living in a manner consistent with your own highest values. Take them when you get them in bite-sized pieces, not only if they come with full orchestration and sunbeams dramatically piercing the clouds. Seek them by living fully, even though engaging vigorously will sometimes lead you off the middle path, even though engaging will sometimes lead you to pain. Do, and learn. That would be the right declination of Icarus, really. Big Bennett Bruce, B to the power of 4. This is something that I've been trying to do more in the last year. It's difficult, but so rewarding. I agree. I've been struggling with it as well, but it's so worth the effort. It actually reminds me, some of you may have heard this story. There was a period of time where I felt like I was getting really consistently really terrible dice rolls while playing board games. And it occurred to me that when I get an exceptionally good roll in a board game, I don't think, wow, that is so unfair. That is so unlikely. I can't believe how unlikely that is. I'm gonna think about it. I'm just like, oh, good. And I move on. I figured if I pay as much attention to getting good rolls as I pay attention to getting bad rolls, maybe I'll feel less unlucky. And I did. I felt like I immediately started rolling better, even though obviously that's not true. And I think about that a lot, because I think it has a lot of applications outside of board games. Capability versus having. Instead of desiring this thing or that thing, what if your greatest desire was to be a person who is very capable? Not one who has X, but one who can do X. Human brain loves to focus on the negative first. It's really annoying. It makes sense from a survival standpoint, but yeah, it's really annoying. Human brains are wired to focus on the negative, both from an evolutionary point of view, but also societal nowadays. That's a good point. It is also societal. Then you wouldn't need possessions or events or recognition to be complete. You would need the ability to figure things out, the ability to get things done, the ability to listen well and to express yourself clearly, the ability to love well and be loved, the ability to handle challenges even in the presence of fear, the ability to know when to persevere and when to leave. If the goal is to complete oneself with things, job titles, money, possessions, accolades, etc., we may accumulate a lot of things, yet we know in advance, you know right now as you read this, that this will not lead to being or feeling complete. If the goal is to complete oneself with favorable circumstances, no matter how praiseworthy, safety, love, good friends, etc., this fake and fragile sense of completeness can vanish in a moment, depending as it does on things we cannot hope to keep forever unchanged. Life is going to mess with us, so we need something less brittle and circumstantial. I learned very recently to be grateful for the lucky rolls when they come and keep calm when the bad ones do. Constant waking challenge. Very difficult, very worth it. We've just kind of learned to just exist instead of consciously engaging with our surroundings and experiences. I think there's many ways in which that's true, yeah. Rather than trying to complete oneself in some externally dependent, fragile, structurally impossible way, we can try to feel complete in our awareness that we are still who we are, even when our most cherished circumstances change, and even when our worst ever circumstances don't change. I encourage you to regularly practice your ability to cope with whatever happens that you don't like, and to fully enjoy whatever happens that you do like Pazer just said. Hakuna Matata. I don't think that's quite the message here. I want your Spotify playlist. It's so cozy. Can I link it? Make public. Link. Share. How do? Oh, here we go. Share. Copy link. Boom. I felt like I was just existing for a long time. I still feel like that now, but not as much as before. Yeah, I've been crawling out of that hole myself. In my particular case, medication has been very helpful in that. But obviously, what I've been... I want to take a side note here because even people closest to me in my life still don't fully understand this at times. When I say that I need medication to be better, I don't mean that medication makes me better. I mean that I'm already pedaling my bike as hard as I can, but if I'm not taking medication, there's no chain on the sprocket. It doesn't matter how hard I work if the work isn't connected to anything. And when I'm not medicated, I just don't have the brain activity required to get anything done. So, yeah, medication is a support. I think that's, I've said on stream before, people say medication is a crutch like it's a bad thing. Medication is a crutch, but that's a good thing. We use crutches when we need them. We use crutches when we're not strong enough to get by on our own. That's the point of a crutch. It's not morally reprehensible to use a crutch, so why would it be morally reprehensible to use a medication? Yeah, it is like insulin for diabetes. God damn, my hair is not staying out of my face today. Should have put more gel in it. Maybe I should achieve nirvana about my hair being in my face. We will never achieve a permanent state of nirvana, but every step in this direction is so much more valuable than any material acquisition, external validation, or temporary circumstance. Some circumstances are surely more important than others. Having a safe and comfortable home, having sufficient food and good health, being able to earn a living, having a job that is largely agreeable to us, being known and loved by close friends, and so on. There are many positive circumstances that matter a great deal. Perhaps it is more self-evident than that many negative circumstances also matter a great deal. Both of the following are partially true about circumstances. 1. Circumstances do not make you, they reveal you. Who will you be when you can be mean or kind, honest or sneaky, helpful or destructive, brave or not? 2. Yet if you think circumstances don't make us, that it's all just personal decisions on a level playing field, go back in time and grow up in a crime-ridden neighborhood, or live through a war, or personal assault, or live with a significant chronic illness or pain, or suffer none of those things and then show us how you turned out just the same in all of these circumstances. How are you doing at balancing these two partial truths about circumstances in your own life? They affect us in ways we never even see, yet even the sum of them does not entirely define us. How do you apply this to your understanding of yourself and your understanding of others? How do we determine when one should buck up and when to be kindly patient with self or others? If your brain doesn't create neurotransmitters, store-bought or fine. Raises me to somewhat normal mentality. I'm really happy to hear that for you. I know very directly that can be a really important step in self-care. Colloquial word bias, crutches are fine, reasons to, excuses with the intent to escape consequences are not. Absolutely true. Absolutely. And it's true, people do sometimes use crutch metaphorically to talk about something that somebody really shouldn't be doing. And that is unfortunate, because it gives a bad rep to crutches as a whole. Recognizing that we go on when our circumstances are positive, when they are negative, and when they are mixed, as they always are, does not diminish their significance. It simply means that we go on is the most important part of that sentence. One reason for our being capable of this is because there is no actual alternative. You cannot be not you. You are just you in different circumstances, which, fun fact, is exactly the phrasing my roommate uses when they teach students to act. Just you in different circumstances. If you don't like how you are in certain circumstances, you don't need to become a different person. The person you already are needs to think, feel, and act differently. Enjoy good circumstances when you have them, and expect them to pass along. Navigate bad circumstances when you have them, and expect them to pass along, or at least change in intensity or in how you relate to them. Neither good nor bad circumstances define you or present a measure of you. Treating circumstances lightly and navigating them well is a measure of you. Increasing your capabilities in the context of changing circumstances is exactly what will, and the only thing that will, lead to feeling secure, calmly confident, and self-possessed. That sounds very much better than just accumulating things we cannot control and will surely eventually lose. Quote, "Just keep in mind, the more we value things outside of our control, the less control we have." Epictetus. It's such a difficult line, yes. I always worry that if I'm kind to myself, I'll get complacent, so it's somehow difficult. How I characterize my disability, and I've been starting to think of it as a disability after years and years of not doing that, and kind of regretting it. The effective result of my depression that none of my medications have yet been able to help me with is that it takes more effort for me than for other people to do basic things. And because of that, I have no way of knowing if I can do something or not. I mean, what I mean is, I can do whatever I force myself to. The question for me on a daily basis is, should I force myself to do that? Or am I asking too much of myself? Should I let myself go, give myself a pass on this? Or do I really need to put the pedal to the metal? It's the hardest, evaluation in my life, and I have to make it all the time. And I don't always get it right, and that's okay. That's an important part of it too. I won't always get it right because I am working with no data except my own personal lived experience, which is inherently biased and subjective. I will never know that I'm doing it right. I will always do it wrong at least some of the time, but that's okay. In a twist of linguistic adaptation, in the Philippines, we say the word reasons in nuance of an excuse to, for reasons. The only thing we can control is how we look at things and who we are, yeah. Well, I mean, who we are in some terms. Can't change fundamentally who we are. The high schooler inside me always chuckles at that philosopher's name, Epictetus. Conquering versus letting go. What we find interesting changes with our age and our experience. Let's use the child's game of hopscotch as an example. When we are at an age that the skills of short-range aiming and nimbly hopping about on one foot are an achievable challenge, hopscotch is fun. The fun begins with, can I do it? Progresses through, can I get better at it? And culminates in pride from knowing, I do it well. At some point, our skill surpasses the challenge of the game and the fun is gone. We lose interest in playing hopscotch. Note that we do not then hate hopscotch and those who play it. We simply lose interest. Losing interest is the ideal way for us to change our relationship with those of our behaviors that lack positive utility. We don't need to hate and revile our overeating, obsession with sex, fear of conflict, social anxiety, low self-esteem, addiction, or other problem. We don't need metaphors about war and conquering. We need the calm disinterest one has for past activities that are simply no longer valuable for us. I get from my own experience that this is much easier said than done. I only mean to recommend a metaphor of waning interest over metaphors about doing battle, hating, resisting, overcoming. If you have been doing something for a long time, even if it is really bad for you or for others, you are probably quite skilled at it. Your neural pathways have literally, physically rearranged themselves to facilitate doing the same thing again and again. If you think about any unwanted behavior as a skill you have mastered to the point that it's just boring, rather than something terrible about yourself that you must hate and eradicate, it might help you act on the idea that it's time to gently leave it behind and master something else. Deflate it. Take all the negative energy and conflict out of it and just imagine walking away because it's boring. The more you do something, the easier it becomes to do again. The more you don't do something, the more that facilitated neural pathway gives way to new arrangements. Oh, what is hopscotch? It's, I hate hopscotch and those who play it. Hopscotch is, I don't know if you've ever seen, maybe in cartoons or on school lots or something, you'll just see an array of squares mapped out. I think usually it's like two squares in a line, then two squares up against each other, then one square, then two squares up against each other, then two more, something like that. And you're just supposed to go through the whole line, only putting 1 foot in each square. So it's a hopping game. It is really fun the first time you do it as a child, and then you're immediately like, oh, I can do that with my eyes closed. The jumpy one, yeah. The jumpy one. Compassion. Zen, Buddhism in general, and compassion, a very highly esteemed value in Buddhism, begin with recognition of the commonalities and interconnections among all beings, and in particular, that all human beings have the same fundamental goals and vulnerabilities expressed differently. Quote, whether one is rich or poor, educated or illiterate, religious or non-believing, man or woman, black, white, or brown, we are all the same. Physically, emotionally, and mentally, we are all equal. We all share basic needs for food, shelter, safety, and love. We all aspire to happiness, and we all shun suffering. Each of us has hopes, worries, fears, and dreams. Each of us wants the best for our family and our loved ones. We all experience pain when we suffer loss, and joy when we achieve what we seek. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Quote, it does not matter whether you are a theist or an atheist. What matters is sincerity, forgiveness, and compassion. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Quote, question, what's the difference between a Buddhist and a non-Buddhist? Answer, the non-Buddhist thinks there's a difference. Mark Epstein. According to Mark Epstein's quip, the Buddhist sees all people as more the same in their fundamental humanity than different in the many ways those fundamentals become expressed, distorted, repressed, and exalted in people's lives. Begin with the notion that we are all more the same in our humanity than we differ in any details, and you may find yourself in a loving and compassionate frame of mind quite a lot of the time. Not only is this good for those around you, but take a moment to think about how good it is for you. What would it do for you if you spent a lot of time with your mind in a loving and compassionate state? Oh, it's not a thing there? I'm sorry. It's not that fun. You're fine. Jump King Screen 10, cozy. Try it. Even when just riding the train, even when taking out the garbage, even when disagreeing with someone or frustrated by someone, even being loving and compassionate with yourself when you are also mad at yourself, or even right now. Enter a loving and compassionate frame of mind. Do it now. Pause. Take a deep breath. Enter a loving and compassionate frame of mind as you read, think, feel. Suspend yourself in an instant altered state, an instant meditation. This is something you can do now, with no training. Go ahead. Breathe slowly. Think about knowing in advance what your thoughts will be. Let them come. Let them go. Your only self-instruction need be, enter into a loving and compassionate state of mind. Observe and breathe. Notice what you feel. Do you like it? Perhaps you will learn something new, or find a voice for something you have felt for a long time but did not know how to express. Maybe you still can't be articulate about it, but you more fully know that something important is there. Did your breathing change? Did it feel like you slowed down just a little bit? Did you feel any different than before that moment? Did you do it at all, or did you just skip over it? You want to take another shot at it. I am lately trying to be in a loving and compassionate state of mind even when I am waiting for a traffic signal to change. Usually I just forget to do that. Imagine two people are each in a genuinely loving and compassionate state of mind. Imagine they are strangers on a bus. What happens when they interact with each other, with other people? What happens inside each of them alone when they do not interact with anyone? Imagine they are business people, politicians, board members, or committee members in a meeting with different objectives. Imagine 3 people interacting with about anything, all of them in a loving and compassionate state of mind, even when they disagree, even when there are things they don't like about each other. What creative ideas for mutual benefit might emerge that are less likely to emerge if those people are instead in an unloving, mistrusting, not liking me against you frame of mind? Don't just read. Put this book down for a minute. Think, feel, wonder. The next time you are in contention with someone, bring this to mind and act on it. Ask yourself, how can I show respect even while I am engaged in this moment of conflict? How can I bring the right amount of power to this situation and not be either a jerk or a pushover? Intending to engage in physical exercise is fine, but health benefits do not accumulate until actually doing exercise becomes a regularly recurring activity. Likewise, feeling compassion is a first step, not a concluding step. Regularly acting with compassion is where the benefits accrue, both to the quality of your life and that of those you interact with. 1. Act with genuine compassion. 2. If you can't act with compassion, act with understanding. 3. If you don't understand, you can still act with kindness. 4. If you cannot be genuinely kind, be charitable. 5. If you cannot be charitable, be tolerant. 6. If you cannot be tolerant, be indifferent. 7. When it's called for, be appropriately intolerant. Let's explore these points one by one after I read chat. Voice of No Return is such a beautiful track. Oh man, it is so emotional for me too. Last month's trip, I saw Hopscotch Grid drawn into the ground for the first time. I didn't know that it was so regionally locked. Does it take surprising effort? I'm surprised. I guess one of those things you just take for granted if you do it enough as a kid, right? Sort of tracks with your dad's MO? That's great. Point 1. Act with genuine compassion. Out of genuine compassion, treat others as you would want to be treated, translated into your best understanding of how they want to be treated. For example, you might find a hug comforting and reassuring, but they might find it invasive. If the goal is to comfort and reassure, find a form of expression that you are able to give that works for them. Don't ask something like, "Can I hug you?" which expresses that will make you feel better, and which they may feel obliged to permit even if it makes them feel worse. Ask something like, "How can I comfort you? Would you like a hug or a cup of tea? Do you want me to just be here with you?" Don't say that you know how they feel, even though an approximate match in feelings is the basis of empathy. When we are in the grip of extraordinary pain, the idea that anyone can relate will often feel like a diminution rather than a validation of our experience. Pain is very personal. It feels like a unique experience, even though tens of millions of people over historical time have felt the same way. Wait for the right time to help them see that their circumstances are not as unrelatable and unsurvivable as they feel in that moment. Old Genshin music has a lot of nostalgia for me, even though the game isn't that old. I agree. Yeah, I haven't played Genshin since probably 2021, and it feels like a different chapter of my life for sure. I really, really like those points. I'm currently in the situation of having been let go from my work because I got sick from letting them push me too far. I was like, I can't be kind, I can't be understanding. Oh, I can be intolerant. I guess this is a good case to be intolerant. And I can still just walk away if it can't be nice. When people fuck you up, it's okay to get mad, and you should. Point 2. If you can't act with compassion, act with understanding. If you can't respond with compassion, treat others as you would want to be treated by someone who did not feel empathy for you, but understood that you were in pain. Say something in the spirit of, wow, you are going through a lot right now, showing that you understand that much, without drawing attention to what you don't understand about why it's so difficult for them. They are going through a lot, even if that is only because they can't handle a lot. Their experience, regardless of your judgment, is a lot for them. I think that's a really good point because, you know, we make fun of, you know, when wealthy people like break down because they don't get their way in a really trivial way. Our first instinct is to just be like, haha, they're so weak. And yeah, they are. But that doesn't mean that they're not in genuine pain in that moment. And making fun of them for feeling pain isn't really constructive. Depending on the nature of your relationship, there might be a later time to compassionately invite exploration for their benefit, not for your curiosity or to try to change them. If so, you can note that we all have triggers that cause us exceptional distress, and they seemed exceptionally distressed when fill in the blank happened. Are they interested in a discussion about what was happening and how they might more comfortably navigate a similar situation in the future? Point 3. If you don't understand, then you can still act with kindness. If you don't find understanding, have humility about the limits of your ability to understand rather than judging their reaction as unreasonable. Treat others in the kindly way you would want to be treated by someone who did not understand you, but still respected you. Consider saying something like, I see how upset you are. Help me understand what's going on. That's not intolerance, that's being kind to yourself. I will strongly argue that they are not mutually exclusive. The only time, in my opinion, that it is appropriate to be intolerant is when the thing you're being intolerant of is truly evil. And Accord, you described something that is truly evil. I know that's a dramatic way of putting it, but I challenge somebody to name one good thing about the decision to push somebody past their physical limits and then fire them for their own consequences. That's evil. And it should be stopped. And we don't always have the power to stop it. Usually we don't, not on our own. But that doesn't mean we have to say it's okay. It's not. That is not okay. If you gain understanding, show it. If you don't, consider saying something like, I am so sorry you are going through that. Accommodate them, and consider asking them later to help you understand it better. Point 4. If you cannot be genuinely kind, be charitable. Assume the best, even if you can't see it. Wait, it was Accord, right? Now I'm doubting myself. Fuck. Yeah, that was Accord. Okay. My bosses say, we never told you to go this far, while yelling at me whenever I couldn't meet one deadline while juggling 20 tasks. Yeah. Yeah, that's that makes me all the more sure that they're in the wrong here. That, like, Assuming you're reporting that accurately, which I can only assume you are, there's no reason for that behavior. That's bad behavior. And it may not have necessarily been of ill intent. They may just be stupid and incompetent. A lot of bosses are. But it's still, the result is still really unfair and really unacceptable. I'm becoming more and more intolerant of how people are acting in my country. It's disgusting to seeing so many lack basic empathy. I'm proud of you for that. And I'm encouraged by it too, because I feel the same way in the US. I feel very fortunate in that most of the people I meet on a day-to-day basis are pretty decent as far as I can tell. But I know that I live in a metropolitan area where people more or less have very similar values. So that's quite different from stuff I see online or hear on the news. I'm seeing the positives. I am gone and learned not to put up with people like this anymore. Yeah, there are positives. I'm not saying there aren't. I'm not saying it's like a strictly bad situation in every way. But it is strictly bad behavior in every way on their part. Assume the best even if you can't see it. Assume that a lack of information explains why you don't understand and empathize with them, rather than assessing that they are overreacting. Even if they are, that's a signal to de-escalate, not to challenge. Act the way you would want someone to act toward you if they really just didn't get what you were going through. Sometimes our reaction to something seems outsized even to us. Point 5. If you cannot be charitable, be tolerant. If being genuinely kind and being charitably kind are both out of reach for you in a particular situation, try to kindly tolerate the fact that every one of us is different, and you don't know this other person's complete history. You don't really have a basis for judging them or what they're going through. Even if you know them very well, you now have evidence about the existence of something you don't know. Rather than rejecting, be respectfully removed. See it as your limitation, not theirs. I think that's especially important in significant relationships. I think it's very common for people to judge suffering that their partner is going through because, like, well, we do everything together and I don't see a reason for this to upset you and I know the details of it pretty well, so you're wrong. That is all too common. It's just not helpful. Pain doesn't need to be legally justified or ethically justified. It just happens. And sometimes that's a bad thing, and we do have to address it, but just saying, like, you stop that makes it worse. We see that, right? We all see that? You must by now see the theme of applying do unto others at every level here. Act the way you would want someone else to act with you if they had a genuinely different view of things, but still respect matters. Point 6, if you cannot be tolerant, be indifferent. If even tolerance is beyond you in a given situation, distance yourself so you don't engage in that situation. It's not yours, it's theirs. This tactic should rarely be needed if your compassion and communication abilities are high. Point 7. When it's called for, be appropriately intolerant. Sometimes, even if we begin with compassion, we discover there is something that we must work to minimize or eliminate. To give the classically obvious example, no amount of emotional compassion and intellectual understanding of the conditions leading to the rise of Nazism obliges me to refrain from opposing the Nazism that was produced. There are many versions of this all around us: racism, misogyny, xenophobia, anti-LGBTQism, religious prejudice. In such cases, work actively against that which inflicts or threatens harm. If your circumstances make it so that you cannot express intolerance of something horrible, Change your circumstances so that you can. Be here now. A Zen-derived cliché in the West is the admonishment to be here now. It might seem like nonsense. If I'm thinking about the past or future, aren't those thoughts here now in my brain? In any case, what's so great about focusing only on the momentary now when the vastly larger past and future are each so important? 4 points could be made. 1. We are inclined to spend so much of our conscious and unconscious attention on the past and future that we tend to give insufficient attention to the unfiltered present, to miss too much of life that is actually occurring. If the admonishment were more detailed and less of a soundbite, it would be something like, do not only live in the moment, but live much more in the moment than you tend to by default. 2. As a special case of the first point, we very often perceive the present moment in a manner that is distorted by the past. In contemporary parlance, and much more than we usually notice, we are triggered when something happening now emotionally invokes something traumatic that happened in our past. In a milder form of this, how we perceive the present is biased by past experiences that are not triggering, but not relevant. In a milder form of this, how we perceive the present is biased by past experiences that are not triggering, but not relevant in this moment? I think he meant but relevant in this moment. 3. As another special case of the first point, we sometimes spend so much time either daydreaming or worrying about the future that once again the present is diminished. We might daydream when we should take action. We might be distressed about a possible future, whether it will actually transpire or not, instead of enjoying a pleasant present or attending to urgent matters with appropriate focus, or even just surviving a present moment of scary uncertainty instead of mentally jumping to imagined disastrous futures. 4. The ancients who uttered the earliest formulation of "be here now" understood life's ultimate purpose to be attaining enlightenment. They considered meditation the best of all tools for achieving enlightenment. Being intensely here and now, acutely yet non-judgmentally aware of everything that comes to mind and letting it go just as quickly, is meditation. Be here now is a simple expression of the most important possible advice, the way to enlightenment. Society pressures us to think about the future so much that we forget to live in the present, definitely. We think a lot about the future. I certainly do. But I think about the present too. Quite a lot. Our analyses and actions should be grounded in what is so, including how we got here, the past, and what is possible, the future. Being here now does not exclude the past or the future, but it keeps the mind focused on what we might call the nowness of now, rather than past glories or tragedies, or worrying about or aggrandizing the future. The past is a place to learn from. The future is a place of possibilities. They are both places to visit with keen interest, but not to live in. Quote, "We are products of our past, but we don't have to be prisoners of it." Rick Warren. Quote, "Worrying doesn't empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength." Corrie ten Boom. Quote, "Be present and fully engaged in each moment, as it is a gift in itself." Marcus Aurelius. Quote, "The most reliable way to predict the future is to create it." Alan Kay. To block out the past is to refuse to learn, to refuse to develop loyalty, to refuse love, and is, at any rate, impossible. To block out thoughts of the future is to refuse to imagine, aspire, plan, create, strive. Past and future are both part of the present moment, but must not substitute for the present moment. Buddhism advises us to see things not just as they are in this instant, but as the consequence of every eons-long process that culminates in this instant, and everything that might be in the future. Actually seeing all of that is impossible. keeping the idea of it in mind is often useful and very Zen. Now is abundantly populated both by history and by future possibilities, yet it is necessary to somehow also perceive it on its own terms. Sorry, I gotta get water. Read something a few days ago that said, there's only two times, yesterday and now. Tomorrow doesn't exist yet and will never come, so focus on the now. I like that. You know that song from Annie? Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you tomorrow, you're always a day away. She's living in the future and she should be ashamed. Take that, 9-year-old. Can't believe a 9-year-old doesn't have perfect philosophy. Perfect coping mechanisms. Most of the game is internal. Most of our experience of life is not actually about our circumstances, but our response to our circumstances. In all forms of Buddhism, including Zen, and in Western philosophy as well, this is a very prominent teaching. Quote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Epictetus. Quote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Marcus Aurelius. Quote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Marcus Aurelius. Forgot the exact wording. How dare you? It doesn't ship to Switzerland? Are you able to buy it digitally? That's actually a better profit margin for my dad anyway. The material cost of printing a book is pretty high. Not that he does it himself, but, you know. Wait a minute, if tomorrow will never come, why doesn't it exist yet? The yet implies it will come! Quote, "The longer we dwell on our misfortunes, the greater is their power to harm us." Voltaire. Quote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Carl Jung. The world contains very many people in very poor circumstances who are happy, grateful, fulfilled, generous, lovely people. The world also contains many people in seemingly wonderful circumstances who suffer terribly and in turn inflict suffering on others. Moneybags. Write it down like ye old medieval scribe. The more accurately informed our view of life is, the more we are able to function in a healthier, happier way. Staying passionately engaged in life while not being so enamored with our pleasing circumstances or so overwhelmed by our negative circumstances is what leads to the calm, peace, and clarity that we desire. The desire to have calm, peace, and clarity is simultaneously very Eastern and very Western. Most of us have vague daydreams about durable peace of mind and no idea how to achieve it in actual life. The answer is, practice peace of mind. Quote, "Some people are content in the midst of deprivation and danger, while others are miserable despite having all the luck in the world. This is not to say that external circumstances do not matter, but it is your mind, rather than circumstances themselves, that determines the quality of your life. Your mind is the basis of everything you experience, and of every contribution you make to the lives of others. Given this fact, it makes sense to train it." Sam Harris. Because your state of mind is so important to your own experience and how you interact with others, the best way to minimize the impact of life's inevitable suffering is to work on your mind much more than on your circumstances. Yet most of us spend almost all of our time on our circumstances, and almost none of our default state of mind. You have much more control over over the cultivation of your mind than you have over your external circumstances. Circumstances matter immensely. Do not make the mistake of minimizing them. But neither should we make the mistake of thinking that even the most powerful circumstances have the last word. Nier music is wonderful. I don't know the answer to that Accord, I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I don't even have a Kindle myself. I think it's pretty clear why I wanted a physical copy. It's my dad. Quote, "We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And there were always choices to make. Every day, every hour offered the opportunity to make a decision which determined whether you would or would not submit to those powers which threatened to rob you of your very self, your inner freedom. Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except one thing, your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation." Viktor Frankl. For Frankl to be that self-possessed, to retain that personal power in the midst of years of literal torture in a Nazi concentration camp, or for you to retain it as you grieve the death of a loved one, or the end of a long-term relationship, or in the face of chronic pain or disability, or a fatal diagnosis, is an immense challenge. But it is a challenge, and not an impossibility, and that is an important distinction. Hi, Shihen. Welcome. Probably hunt physical copy. I wish I could send one to you. Sorry, don't apologize. No, it means a lot to me, and it would mean a lot to my dad that you want a copy. Truly. I'll tell him later today. What is my next move? Each time someone does something that is hurtful to you, that person is responsible for what they did. Even if you provoked them, their response is ultimately their response and their responsibility. Likewise, no matter what they did to you, your response is your responsibility. Assuming you are not anticipating divine intervention or instant karma, what is the best thing you can do to make this painful moment into a productive turning point for yourself? A valuable lesson for yourself? A call to more effective action from yourself? Send me the copy, I pay the fees. It's a decent plan. DM me on Discord. We'll set that up. Don't let it go at simply blaming the other person. They may deserve to be blamed, but that doesn't actually help you have a better life. I'm not saying not to hold them accountable as the causative agent if they deserve it. I'm just saying that accountability is not the same thing as blame, implying condemnation, shame, and such like. Blame doesn't accomplish much, so don't stop at blame, and preferably don't even pass through it. We can do so many things in these situations. We can focus on revenge against them, or on healing ourselves. We can learn how to be less personally vulnerable, or work for change in the surrounding culture so everyone is less at risk. Most of our options are not mutually exclusive, so we can do a lot. I'm not trying to prescribe what you should do, just what you should not do. Blaming is useless at best, typically destructive, often misdirected, and doesn't do anything to affect positive change. Don't stop at blaming. Skip over it if you can. Don't stop until you begin executing on a next step that puts you in the driver's seat for something that you can actually drive. What puts you in the driver's seat might just be taking some time away from this situation, or going into therapy, meditating, learning a new skill, taking political action or legal action. It could be anything except for blaming. Blaming simply doesn't accomplish anything beyond unproductive venting. Don't change your mind. Find it. Public speaking is often thought of as a vehicle for changing minds and for changing society. Early in my experience with it, I learned that the purpose of my public speaking, the same as my purpose in writing this book, is not to change anyone's mind about anything, but to help each of us better understand the minds we already have. You just bought a copy? Awesome! Nice! Paperbacks in stock. I don't think this comes in hardbound, actually. That's so cool! My dad's book is overseas! Love that. Why do I want us to know our minds better? I want each of us to act more often and more effectively on the basis of what we really value. I want we who already agreed with each other, but don't know it. I want we who already agree with each other, but don't know it, to find that we are not alone, to be strengthened both by the mere recognition of that and by the real-world fellowship we can then provide for each other. Switzerland hates Amazon? Good for Switzerland. Please do, Shihan. That'll be awesome. Quote, although I am a typical loner in my daily life, my awareness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty, and justice has prevented me from feelings of isolation. Albert Einstein. The paradox of pursuing and accepting more accurate self-knowledge rather than change is that greater self-knowledge is a change, a big change, and one that naturally generates change in the larger world. But it matters which comes first. Quote, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change. Carl Rogers. Oh my god, that would be amazing, Accord. That would make me so happy, even if it's just like, even if it's just a JPEG in the corner. Or hell, tell me what country you're from and I'll just shop it in. That would be so wonderful. That could make him cry. That might make him cry. Let's make my dad cry, guys. Deciding to change, pushing for change, and requiring change are usually fraught with unsuccessful activities. By comparison, with increased self-knowledge, change is unstoppable. Let's make this really clear. Quit smoking! Come on! Just decide and do it! See how hard that is? Fix your diet! Oh, that's hard to implement. See the wounded soul inside the person who is behaving badly. Oh, no, sorry. See the wounded soul inside the person who's behaving badly. Maybe later. Improve education globally, or in your country, or even just in your own community. Deciding on an objective or course of action is good and necessary, but not much. In reality, in most cases of any significance, change only comes in bite-sized pieces. The direction may be set from the top down, but the action that actually makes it happen comes from the bottom up. When we work on personal change in smaller bits, and when enough individuals change in a similar direction, the world is just no longer the same. Quote, everyone should view themselves as equally balanced, half good and half evil. Likewise, they should see the entire world as half good and half evil, so that a single good deed will tip the scales for themselves, and that for the entire world, it will tip to the other side of good. Rabbi Moses ben Maimonides. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Vulcan was very smart. I will not say do not weep, for not all tears are an evil. Good old Gandalf. Let's make this really queer. I so hate, among the many recurring lines in anime I hate, one of the ones I hate the most passionately is, stop crying, you're a boy, right? I will kill you. I will find who wrote that line, and I will kill you. Quote, we don't have to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. Howard Zinn. Quote, If you pursue good with labor, the labor passes away, but the good remains. If you pursue evil with pleasure, the pleasure passes away, and the evil remains. Cicero. Quote, "No matter what anyone does, my task is to do good." Marcus Aurelius. Quote, "How we behave matters because within human society everything is contagious. Sadness and anger, yes, but also patience and generosity, which means we all have more influence than we realize." Elizabeth Gilbert. Quote, "Be kind and compassionate, as our actions have a ripple effect on the world around us." Marcus Aurelius. Quote, "What you do makes a difference. You have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." Jane Goodall. Stress resilience. Boys are allowed to cry? Fuck yeah, we are! Everyone is. Spoiler alert, it's something we do. Do you think anybody in the history of humankind has ever been like, wow, I'm really sad. You know what? I'm going to make water come out of my eyes. It's not a choice. It's something we do. And if you squash that, all you're doing is hurting yourself. Stress resilience. Stress reduction is obviously important, but stress resilience is much more important. As Buddhism emphasizes, there is no life without dukkha, stress of numerous kinds and intensities. So reducing it is good, but since we cannot eliminate it, we must become more resilient in the face of it. I could easily characterize this entire book as a course in stress resilience. We become more resilient by being less attached to life's ups and downs. This equanimity gives a stronger center of gravity, grounded in self rather than circumstance, a clearer sense of who am I that informs how shall I act, a place we can always return home to that has more calm and peace and clarity and purpose than the highs and lows of a given day, week, or lifetime. Enjoy your good times. Suffer your bad times. But don't exalt the good or suffer about the suffering. Jonathan's message, that's me saying we should make my dad cry, isn't it? Become a pressure cooker. Hell yeah, you do. You cry? Never. Impossible. I've cried on stream. Not much, but like tears. It's not. Okay, well, I'll check it out later. I'm curious now. It just hit me that you're still Santa Claus. It's almost appropriate again. I love how he threatens that person and then just goes back to read from the book. Yeah. Fuck that person. As if it's one person. I understand it's a cultural thing. I understand it's bigger than one person. And it also is not fair to blame that one person. As if it is one. Okay, enough. Happiness. Buddhism does not treat happiness as a separate topic. But Buddhism as a whole is meant to reduce suffering and increase fulfillment. In that sense, everything in Buddhism is about creating happiness. Being happy is an important part of one's purpose that is often either recklessly pursued without regard to consequences, or mistakenly dismissed as frivolous and unworthy. Instead, I recommend that you pursue it without apology, yet without being careless. Quote, "When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life." Unknown, often attributed to John Lennon. Quote, "People would ask, 'Goldie, what do you want to be when you grow up?' 'Happy,' I would reply, looking in their eyes. 'No, they'd laugh. 'That's really sweet, but I mean, what do you want to be? A ballerina? An actress, maybe?' 'I just want to be happy.'" Goldie Hawn. An old Peanuts comic strip showed Charlie Brown asking Linus whether he thinks much about the future. Linus replies that he does. Charlie then asks what Linus wants to be when he grows up. Linus replies, outrageously happy. Make happiness a vibrant aspect of your purpose and of your lived experience. Don't pursue it recklessly, but don't treat it like an illegitimate or unimportant feature of your life either. Joy. I went for a walk with a 4-year-old. It was cold and it looked like it might rain, so we bundled up and I took an umbrella. While we were out, it did start to rain, and quite heavily. I sheltered us under the umbrella and we stayed close to each other against the cold and the wind. As we approached a large puddle, I began to consider how we should navigate around it. My little companion darted ahead, out from under the umbrella's protection, and jumped into the puddle, laughing hysterically about the huge splash she made. I felt like an idiot for having an umbrella. I'm really proud of my dad for writing that. That sounds like a block quote. That sounds like it's one of the other quotes. That's so well written. Fuck. Do you understand life? Tommy Wiseau. That is the end of the key concepts chapter, which started on page... Hold on. Started on page 53. We are now on page 145. Reminds me of how I always thought, when I get older, I will understand life, and now I'm still like, I need an adult. I remember I said on the Discord server once, I said, I think I started feeling like an adult at the moment that I realized I would never feel like an adult. And somebody who was 17 at the time, no, somebody who was 18 at the time was like, I feel like an adult. I'm like, yeah, so you haven't reached the point I'm talking about yet. Of facts and truths. Storytelling. Quote, fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be defeated. Neil Gaiman. Oh, that didn't age well. Oh my god, I'm going to feel like that forever? Yes, you are. Imagine your task is to comfort a 4-year-old child who is distressed about being a slow and steady kind of kid instead of a quick one. Or imagine your task is to get an impulsive child to slow down and be more diligent. Would you rather read them The Tortoise and the Hare? Or do you think the most effective thing would be to present a 4-year-old with an intellectual argument? This is one of the times when candid self-knowledge and unwavering discipline will beat arrogance and impulsivity. Clearly, a developmentally appropriate story beats wording that is accurate but inaccessible. This is exactly what Buddha meant by skillful means of teaching, and aligns with his use of parabolic stories rather than factual histories, to convey principled teachings rather than unquestionable facts. I'm an adult to my inner child. That's as much of an adult as I can and want to be. I certainly am far more mature and informed and capable than I was as a child, in many aspects. But I don't feel different. And part of that is because all of the milestones were demolished for my generation, so I'm still living in an apartment with roommates even though I'm in my 30s. But, yeah. I mean, look, I've got posters on my back wall. You think I feel like an adult? Strawberries and how to eat them. Yes, it is the last stream of the month. We will always read this book as the last stream of the month, for as long as there is a book to be read. We're actually going through it faster than I expected. We're like, I don't know, more than a quarter, maybe even more than a third of the way through. And it's only been, what? This is the 4th stream of this book? It's pretty good. For me, it's the 1st stream of the month. So true. Overdeveloped children become underdeveloped adults. That sounds right. I already read that. In the best known of Aesop's fables, a certain tortoise and a rabbit's larger cousin have an unfriendly conversation in which they decide to settle things by having a race. The facts of this story begin with a tortoise and a hare conversing. Beyond that, they are familiar with the concept of racing, go on to conduct a race, and are motivated by the symbolic meaning they misattribute to the result of the race. We effortlessly discard such facts as the literary devices they are, as we focus on the story's truth, and it doesn't end there. Even the extracted truth of the story, slow and steady wins the race, is a truth only in very limited situations. Slow and Steady won that race because the hare was a jerk. We don't need to believe, and indeed we do not need to believe, that Slow and Steady will win most races. We do not need to believe, and indeed we do not need to believe. We do not need to believe, and indeed we do not believe, that Slow and Steady will win most races. With good reason, we believe the opposite, that Slow and Steady will lose almost all races. We cannot get the truth of this story without also getting the idea that it applies sometimes, not always, and the story only gives an implicit hint about when Slow and Steady will win versus the many more numerous circumstances in which it will lose. Yet 2,600 years and several cultural revolutions later, we all know Slow and Steady wins the race. Limited as it is, in some contexts, that is true. And it has given to us a story, and it was given to us in a story holding not a single fact. Buddha told us to take his words as we would take a raw extract from a gold mine. It remains up to us to extract the pure gold out of the raw material into which it is packed. His words are not the gold. They merely contain or indicate the gold. When we skillfully extract truths from the stories they are packed into, and select the right truth out of many to apply in a given situation, and do that to good purpose, we call it wisdom. Wise observation, wise reasoning, wise action. I want to stress that. I really do think that is the true definition of wisdom. People say, like, wisdom, the difference between intelligence and wisdom is intelligence is stuff you read in a book and wisdom is stuff you just know. I think wisdom is your ability to turn intelligence into utility. I think wisdom is the ability to fetch things that you know and have learned in the past in times when they become relevant again. That's just me editorializing, which I'm allowed to do because it's my stream, as if anybody would be mad about that. The Buddhist parable of the elephant and the blind men is another example of a story that transcends a nonsensical foundation to make a point that has lasted for millennia and traveled through countless cultures. Even though these men were blind from birth, the cultural prominence of elephants in India at that time was so great that the idea of anyone not knowing what an elephant was is absurd. The idea that none of these men would notice that they were touching only a small portion of something very large is even more absurd. But over 2,500 years later, in completely unrelated cultures far from India, very many people know this parable and understand it as a warning that one's knowledge can be far less complete than one thinks. The reason so many people know this story is because while the story is nonsense, teaching is true. I'm not sure, I don't think this one's as well known as the tortoise and the hare, but if I remember correctly, the elephant and the blind men is like 3 blind men touch different parts of an elephant and they all think they're touching a different animal because they say like, yes, I feel the blank of a blank, therefore this must be a blank. That's the story. I have a friend who is a minister. When he is about to tell a story to illustrate some point, he often begins as follows, quote, "I don't know if it actually happened this way, but I know this is true." Ben Myers. The things we hold as truths should be consistent with actual facts, but they are not the same things as facts. Although real truths depend on real facts and may be limited to certain contexts, we have just seen that a truth grasped by one person may be transmitted to another, even in the absence of any facts or context. This is amazing and marvelous, but it also presents some very significant problems. I want to make... Sir, that's neither the tail nor the trunk. wanted to make a joke about you being your own editor and biases and publish is too high effort. Yeah, I'll laugh at the joke anyway. There we go. It presents some very significant problems. Not needing facts and contexts to plant a truth in our minds makes us vulnerable to self-deception and to accidental or intended deception by others. Our mistakes expand in two ways. Truths tend to drag facts in with them, which reinforces the truth even if it's actually false, even if the facts themselves are wrong, even if they are right but used so misleadingly that they encourage wrong thinking, even if they are right but misapplied. The less context is explicitly given with an alleged truth, the more we assume it applies all the time. We often refuse to reject those facts and truths we have previously internalized, even if it becomes obvious that they were mistaken, especially if we have said them out loud, and even more so when we fear that surrendering them will endanger our belief. I think I read something wrong. We often refuse to reject those facts and truths we have previously internalized, even if it becomes obvious that they are mistaken, especially if we have said them out loud, and even more so when we fear that our surrendering them will endanger our beliefs, activities, or even just terminology that we have associated with our identity. Recognizing these problems also sheds light on a promising upside. When we see that many of our apparent truths and facts are still wrapped up in a particular storytelling, we can extract the gold and appreciate the storytelling as effective packaging. Once we separate truths and facts from the stories we tell about them, we can achieve deeper wisdom and do an ever better job of aligning our actions with the principles we value most. So, to distill that, I think what he's saying here is that if we all get the same message out of an ancient story, and that message has not changed since that story was written, that means it's a really good story and we should keep telling it. I have no idea in Revenant. Hi, Pedro! Yes, I'm eating my Of course I'm not eating my strawberries! I'm allergic! How could you? Okay, bye. Ooh, enjoy the wedding. That sounds lovely. A dramatic illustration. I recently watched a show that revolves around a man whom everyone thinks of as the kindest, nicest, most loving person they know. Having known him for many years, they have many stories that illustrate this. It's not a superficial assessment. He is then accused of doing something horrible, and no one who knows him can believe it. Gradually, more and more damning evidence comes to light showing that he is a repeat offender and has been doing it for years. His family has come to grips with the photographic evidence, and first-hand reports. I think I watched this show. I think I know what show he's talking about. Their suffering is made worse by media attention and unkindness in the community. On top of all that, someone has taken revenge on the man for his misdeeds and killed him. Okay, no, never mind, I have not seen this show. So the family has the double tragedy of emotionally losing the person they thought he was, and completely losing whoever he actually was, with no opportunity to confront him or make peace with him. They are thoroughly devastated and disoriented. Oh, an indie movie, interesting. I know you can't eat them, so I'm gonna tell on your dad. Tell on you to your dad. One by one, we are introduced to suspects who have motive, means, and circumstantial evidence for being the killer. In each case, it seems quite clear that the right person has been caught this time, and yet in each case they turn out not to be the killer. In the end, we find out that a very non-suspect sort of person committed the murder, and it was not motivated by revenge. Even more surprisingly, we find that the man never did the things he was accused of, despite the photographic evidence and first-hand reports that we came to believe along with the family. His family has gone through an excruciating experience. At least they find out that he really was the good person they thought he was. Their loss obviously remains great, but it is no longer accompanied by the additional torture of thinking they never actually knew him and can't trust their own judgment about anybody or anything. The show is just a story, a very well-written, compelling fiction, but it repeatedly illustrates a very real danger. Even when there is an abundance of irrefutable evidence, we still don't know what we don't know. We don't know what portion of what we think is a certainty is actually an illusion. Most importantly, we don't even know when we have come to very wrong conclusions. The reason I am including this story here is that it illustrates that story is our reality, not reality itself. The central character was a good man when everyone's narratives portrayed him as such, and he was a good man when everyone's narratives portrayed him as a deceiving and heinous villain. Similarly, each suspect was not guilty of murder when thinking them guilty was the most convincing story we had, and not guilty when we found out that their story was wrong. Stories are our interface with reality. We do not ever get a direct connection with reality itself unfiltered. We just tell ourselves stories that we find credible. What stories do you tell about yourself? What stories do you tell yourself about others? You should hold on to all stories more tentatively, knowing that you don't know what you don't know, and that much of what you think you know with certainty might be surprisingly incorrect. I think I know that my dad wrote this book, but now I realize I don't. I don't know that. Hi, Aaliyah. You are currently being played while I drive. See you soon. Enjoy being a car. Enjoy being a car. What are your criteria for finding stories credible? How do those criteria differ across subject matter? What changes in your story credibility criteria would bring you into better alignment with what is so? Some religious truths. Here we go. There have been at least 4,200 religions in human history, with estimates as high as 10,000. Both of those estimates lump all forms of Christianity together into a single religion. But Christianity alone contains an estimated 45,000 sects, which would bring the total to 55,000 different religions. Buddhism has about 200 sects, and other religions have sects too, so the real grand total might even approach 100,000 religions. If you think this is too granular a way to count, tell a Baptist and a Calvinist that they are the same, and let me know how that goes. That's amazing. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Despite irreconcilable differences among these 4,000 or tens of thousands of religions, great truths recur across disparate cultures and historical periods. They pop up in religions, philosophies, and psychological frameworks, in deep thoughts and in casual observations. The good things that we humans create and esteem in one culture after another are what matter, not the conflicting stories they're packed into. Here is something held out again and again as a core tenet of how to live one's life, from the Amish to the Zoroastrians, with tens of thousands of religions omitted for brevity. Quote, "It is better to give others a piece of your heart than a piece of your mind." Amish. Quote, "And if thine eyes be turned toward justice, choose thou for thy neighbor what which thou choosest for thyself." Baha'i. Quote, "A state that is not pleasing or delightful to me, how could I inflict that upon another?" Buddhism. Quote, And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise." Christianity. Quote, "Do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you." Confucianism. Quote, do not unto others which would cause you pain if done to you. Hinduism. Quote, none of you is a believer until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself. Islam. Quote, in happiness and suffering, in joy and in grief, we should regard all creatures as we regard our own self. Jainism. Quote, love thy neighbor as thyself. Judaism. Quote, all things are our relatives. What we do to everything, what we do to ourselves, all is really one. Lakota Native American. Quote, doing good to others is not a duty, it is a joy, for it increases your own health and happiness. Happiness comes to them who bring happiness to others. Zoroastrianism. We have a Mormon equivalent in Philippines. They're called Iglesia Ni Cristo. They celebrated their centennial in 2021. Nice. I hope someday to be explained what this not is. Oh, not N-A-U-G-H-T. Do not to others. Tie them up. Tie them up in bondage. That is the golden rule. We humans cannot stop making this particular observation. One need not— Fuck, my nose is so fucking itchy! I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm trying to be zen about it. No better bonding experience than through bondage. We humans cannot stop making this particular observation. One need not identify with a particular religion or identify with any religion at all, or believe there is a plan and a planner to know that what we humans do matters. That we know what to do, and that it is on us to do it. A story in the Talmud tells about a man who was thinking of converting to Judaism. When he challenged the great Rabbi Hillel to explain the whole of Jewish teaching while standing on one foot quickly, Hillel replied, quote, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the whole Torah. The rest is commentary. Now go study it. The Talmud. Ancient Stoic philosophers made the same observation. Quote, whoever does wrong wrongs himself. Whoever does injustice does it to himself, making himself evil. Marcus Aurelius. Quote, he that does good to others does good to himself. Seneca. I see we have another soundtrack in the background now. Immanuel Kant made the same observation. Quote, I am never to act otherwise than so that I could also will— Jesus Christ. This is word salad. I am never to act otherwise than so that I could also will that my maxim should become a universal law. Ugh. Immanuel Kant. Similarly, although few seem to know that Jesus was quoting from the Hebrew Bible, Leviticus 19:18, when he said it in the Sermon on the Mount, many Christians say that the essence of Christianity is love thy neighbor as thyself. My brand just gave up for real there. I just read 2 messages at once, but that's okay. I'm supposed to bind all people I meet? I've solved the universe. You're welcome. You're welcome very much. Like the religion of the Lakota Native Americans, Hinduism, and several other religions, Buddhism holds that all is one. That all people, sentient beings, non-sentient beings, and inanimate things are illusory distinctions. This belief leads to treating every person and thing in the world as respectfully and kindly as we ourselves would want to be treated. There it is again. The universal oneness found in Buddhism is, among other things, yet another way to say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Emphasizing empathy rather than oneness, the Dalai Lama has said, we begin from the recognition that all beings cherish happiness and do not want to suffer. It then becomes both morally wrong and pragmatically unwise to pursue only one's own happiness, oblivious to the feelings and aspirations of all others who surround us as members of the same human family. The wiser course is to think of others when pursuing our own happiness. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. The more that scientists study inborn behavioral tendencies, the more solid is the evidence that altruistic behavior arises from our biological nature. Indeed, that is perhaps the best definition of what it means to be a truly social and not just communal animal. Kant was German, kind-ofishly, don't hold it against him, yeah. But I gotta say, reading Diverwandlung by Kafka in German was worse and extremely surreal. That sounds like Kafka. That Kant quote was really something. It sure was. I can only imagine how it was in German. Basically, a dude shut himself in his room with a Bible for 3 days, then started preaching his own interpretation. That is kind of Mormon-y. My great-grandfather on my mother's side was part of the crowd that wanted to stone him, but ended up one of his first converts? This is an amazing story. Somehow my grandmother ended up coming back to Catholicism. Huh. And her decision kind of set a rift in between her line and the rest of the extended family. Holy crap. That's amazing! Quote, "When I hear scientists say that basic human nature is compassionate, I feel it is a sign of hope. Responding to other beliefs with loving kindness is the best way to bring about inner peace. I am committed to promoting fundamental human values like compassion. What we need today are universal values based not on faith, but on scientific findings, common experience, and common sense. Just as we preserve our health by observing physical hygiene, we can protect our inner well-being by tackling our destructive emotions and cultivating peace of mind. This is true not only for humans, by the way, but for other social animals as well. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Goodness is not injected into us at a weekly clinic in a building with a religious symbol over the doorway. Rather, it is something we bring with us when we enter that building, or any... I gotta tell Karina to shut up, one sec. Yeah, I think I just answered your question, Accord. Awkward. Where was I? Goodness is not injected into us at a weekly clinic in a building with a religious symbol over the doorway. Rather, it is something we bring with us when we enter that building, or any other setting. That is a good and powerful thing. People produce feelings, thoughts, and actions so magnificent that we think of them as divine gifts. That's fantastic. And the fact that it comes from within us, not from out there, is also fantastic. In The Essence of Christianity, written by a Christian stronger opinion. Your dad is, in fact, pretty based. In The Essence of Christianity, written by a Christian theologian in 1841, we are told that we transfer reason, love, and agency onto God and away from ourselves. He summed it up by saying we make the following error. Quote, "To enrich God, man must become poor. That God may be all, man must become nothing." Ludwig Feuerbach. To the annoyance of his contemporaries, Feuerbach argued that people must stop giving away to God the best of what is truly human. Note that being a social animal is not only a source of good things. is not... Yeah, note that being a social animal is not only a source of good things, it necessarily imposes a huge problem as well. Either you are a member of my dog pack, my baboon troop, my human tribe, or you are not. Inside the pack, troop, tribe, we have heightened levels of trust and reciprocal care. Outside, we have heightened levels of distrust and aggression. We made note of the high price of this tribalism above. As Albert Einstein advises, we must do better. Pierre Bach is amazing. When he studied at school, my co-peers hated him. Said he didn't make sense, and I loved him. My teacher just went, "You need help." I think you've found your tribe now, Accord. We went to Utah and visited the Family Search Center run by LDS. Pretty swell overall. They helped us make a free account on their family archives thingy, and we were able to find documents reaching back 6 generations from... Wow! That's incredible. Wait, why should humanity enrich God, really? Doesn't his existence presuppose that he already has all of creation for himself? I feel the same way. Yeah, the whole idea that in order to be a good person, we have to sacrifice to God, who made everything we could possibly sacrifice, it doesn't sit right with me. Very funny song to read to, because it's kind of a bop. Quote, "A human being is part of a whole called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole nature in its beauty." Albert Einstein. By the way, what Einstein said here is practically a Buddhist sermon, from its premise of a universal whole to its conclusion about ever more inclusive compassion. Tesla, who rejected Einstein's theory of relativity, agreed with him on this. Quote, "We are all one. Only egos, beliefs, and fears separate us." Nikola Tesla. And in the same vein, do not consider yourself a living being, but one small part of a universe that is alive. Marcus Aurelius. We are here to awaken from our illusion of separateness. Thich Nhat Hanh. When we consciously or unconsciously decide who and what to care about, we may use categories like me and mine, or anyone affected by X, or my identity group, or all people everywhere, or my country, right or wrong, or the planetary ecosystem. Categories are constructs we opportunistically create and apply to help us navigate reality effectively. They're not hardwired into reality itself. Make your categories wisely. We already enrich him with everything we do. That's beautiful. Yeah, if God is truly a beneficial being who wants the best for all of humanity, I mean, any good parent says that the best thing their child can do is be happy. Why would God feel any different? When you decide who gets your compassion and who you ignore or disrespect or harm, or what principles and causes get your active support and what things you work against, please consciously ask yourself what inclusion and exclusion criteria you are using. See if the categories you have constructed are aligned with the values you claim as your own. See if your selection criteria and actions are ones you are proud of, would be proud of in your children, in your identity group, in public. See if your categories and actions pass the do unto others test. If you created an ideal world, would you want these categories to be universally applied? Even when applied by others, they would be harmful. Even if when applied by others, they would be harmful to you and yours. What each of us does day by day, action by action, inaction by inaction, is exactly what literally creates the world we live in. What world are you helping to create in the actions you are taking today? Never heard about Tesla and Einstein disagreeing? I'm not sure I did either. God doesn't make mistake. God creates gay people. Humans hate on it. You call them out for their previous belief. Shocked Pikachu face. Well, don't you know, Accord? That's because queer people are not queer because God told them to. They're queer because they're misbehaving. And they need to be disciplined. I obviously don't believe that. I can't overlook the problem of evil if God is supposed to be omnipotent and benevolent. Trying to be Zen. I'm trying so hard to be Zen. I don't hold it against Tesla either. Given enough time to speak together, they would probably have been able to suss out more of the universe as a team, but it's awesome that they seemed to have gotten along well enough philosophically to engage in discussions like this. Yeah. Well, to be clear, this is not claiming that they actually spoke to one another about this. These are just two quotes that say the same thing. That was not a bird, that was a roommate. I can't overlook the problem of evil. I've talked about this with a few friends. I have an acquaintance who is very, very devoutly Christian. And he's one of the kindest, most understanding, empathetic, compassionate people, intelligent people I've ever met in my life. I really respect and admire this guy. And he has given the only answer to the problem of evil that I consider acceptable. He said, I don't know. He does not know why God allows evil. And that is the only answer I will accept. Because there is no other answer that results in a kind God. God says he is also the source of all evil. Yeah, the Bible says a lot of things. Actually, this morning, YouTube recommended to me this video that was like two people in a game show answering questions about the Bible, and they always gave directly conflicting answers, and they always both got it right. It was great. It was great. Funny video. I would love to... I was telling my roommate, I would love to just like go through the entire Christian Bible, like whatever the most popular translation of it is to English. And I just want to paraphrase every verse into modern English and see how many what the fuck moments I can find. That would be so fun. I don't know is so real. It is! No, I think one of the most dangerous things a human being can do is grab an answer when they should just say they don't know. Especially if they're doing it for themselves. Please do not assume you know more than you actually do just because you're uncomfortable with uncertainty. That is how people die. Our inherent nature has both Our inherent nature has both pro-social and anti-social features. We can be empathetic, kind, and generously loving, and we can also be hurtful, horrible, and deadly violent. Morality corresponds with the pro-social aspect of what we biologically are. Where religions get morality right, they have misappropriated the pro-social part of our inherent nature and given it to their god or gods. Conversely, where religions get morality wrong, they have violated our inherent pro-social nature and aligned with the antisocial aspect of our nature. Morality inheres in us as a product of our biology-based, extremely interdependent nature. It does not come into us as an injection of a foreign substance or as a gracious gift from any god. It competes with antisocial characteristics that also inhere in us and do not enter us due to demons or evil spells. Quote, "This is my simple religion. There's no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart, is our temple. The philosophy is kindness." His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. I've also got to mention animal suffering here too, because I've seen human suffering as reason as a test from God, but that doesn't really apply to animal suffering at all. Not even a little bit. It really doesn't. That answer would have stunned me, to be honest, right? I was very impressed. I mean, I read this post from him, it wasn't even in person, it was just something he said on Facebook like a year ago, and I still remember it. That's the unkind thing about Abrahamic religions. If not representatives or symbols, animals are largely non-soul beings. Well, I thought you were gonna say, I agree with that, but I think another really cruel thing about it is, Abrahamic religions claim that you aren't really responsible for anything you do unless that thing is devotion to God or denial of God. Those are the only two things you can do in most Abrahamic religions that actually matter. Everything else, God or the devil caused. And I know that not all Abrahamic religions have the devil per se, but they all talk about evil as if it is an external force, and it's just not. Good and evil are not external. They're us. From everyone I know in Norway, I know one person who is so devoutly Christian to even try to interpret the Bible literally. Oh no! Comes from Norway's Bible Belt. Yeah, we have one too. Didn't know that. But he's amazingly intelligent, studied astrophysics with me, and still, I don't know, I had to control myself when I heard that. He thought, That is deeply painful. I have some questions for that guy, but none that I care to ask. If you really want to read the Bible, I suggest the King James Version. That's what I figured was probably the most common, but I don't know. Totally sentient, wish my cats could talk. Addendum, I'm saying so many because sentience is, in general, really hard to measure empirically. Impossible, I would say. Although we can say with pretty strong confidence that, like, fleas are not sentient. Anywho. Quote, "Whether we accept religion or not, we should be a compassionate, altruistic human being. The rest of our life, we should be a more kind-hearted person. That's my main message." His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Quote, "Some automatically associate morality and altruism with a religious worldview, but I think it's a mistake to think that morality is an exclusive attribute of religion. Two types of spirituality can be imagined. One is connected to religion, while the other is spontaneously born in the human heart as an expression of love for your neighbor and the desire to do good to them." His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Quote, "Whenever your religion and the Golden Rule take separate paths, always follow the Golden Rule." His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Quote, "Nothing is more important than empathy for another human being's suffering. Not career, not wealth, not intelligence, certainly not status. We have to feel for one another if we are going to survive with dignity." Audrey Hepburn. I love you. Like, he definitely just got this meme off of Facebook, but okay. If people can hate people they've never met, I can love people I've never met. Who cares? I have been scolded in sharply accusatory tones. Why do you care what other people think? Even if it is nonsense, what harm does it do if it comforts them? It's hard to leave aside how casually this trivializes people's religious beliefs at the same time it considers them sacrosanct. In my head, I have silently replied, "Have you ever taken a history class, warfare, genocide, terrorism, class conflict, or read or listened to the news, rape, murder, racism, fraud, party politics, abuse of power? or known someone who was told they were dead to their own parents because they believed something different, or married someone different, or felt something different. When we fail to take responsibility for everything that is truly ours, we afflict ourselves and each other horribly. That's why I care what other people think. Good and evil are ours. We are responsible to do good and to promote goodness in others. We are responsible for what we do that is harmful, and for those times that we don't stop someone else from doing harm. And we are responsible for those times when we don't do much of anything at all. Quote, "You can also commit an injustice by doing nothing." Marcus Aurelius. Quote, "Every man is guilty of all the good he did not do." Voltaire. Fleas are mean. Agreed. They pick me before any pets? That's not fair. When I first went to Australia on vacation, I saw a Quran while I was walking at a fair. It's a pretty looking book, gilded too. Wish I bought it. Would look nice to my Necronomicon. Don't tell any Muslim people you said that, but I do really think that some Quran, and I mean any scripture, but Quran especially, can be so beautifully decorated. Will we get a live, laugh, love? No, not from my dad. I hope. Actually, I'm not sure there's another graphic in the entire book. No, there are some. I have strong confidence in X is such a good phrase, and I usually only hear people who are properly scientific. I have strong confidence in X is such a good phrase, and I usually only hear people who are properly scientifically literate use it. Most people will just assert or say, "I have a theory," when they have a hypothesis at best. I should remember to use the phrase more often when applicable. I would have read it or started it honest. I believe you. I like to point out, and I've probably done this on stream with you guys. I'm sure sometimes I forget, but I make a conscious effort that every single time I say something that I don't know as far as I can reasonably be expected to know something, I tell you. Because I don't think being less than certain about something is a reason not to bring it up. But you've got to give that disclaimer. You've got to say, hey, I don't know if this is true, but if it interests you, you should look into it. I have strong confidence that Jonathan's community is amazing, and these streams are always a highlight for me. Love hanging out with all of you. I have that strong confidence too. You guys are really incredible. Pretty much unanimously. There's a TED Talk, I think, that makes a great argument for animal sentience. What animals are thinking and feeling, and why it should matter, by Carl Safina. Nice. When we take full responsibility for our goodness, Jesus Christ. When we take full responsibility for our goodness, we see that it is ours, and that there is no one else to do it. When we take full responsibility for our regrettable behavior, we see that there is no one better positioned than ourselves to stop us from continuing it. Contrast Abrahamic and karmic constructions. The formulation dominant in Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Baha'i, Druze, Rastafarianism, Samaritanism, is that the suffering of good people and success of bad people in this life will be set right in the afterlife by the eternal bliss of heaven or the eternal torture of hell. By contrast, those who believe in karma believe that spiritual and pragmatic goodness in this life improves the spiritual maturity and pragmatic pleasantness of the next one, while evil done in this life results in a demotion in the next life, but with another chance to get it right. That is, God provides outsized payback, while karma provides proportionate feedback. The Abrahamic model is consistent with harsh, all or none, fear-inducing, oppressive, authoritarian religion, government, corporate management, and parenting. The karmic model is consistent with humane religion, government, management, and parenting. It's the difference between comply or die and live and learn. You don't have to believe in karma to value live and learn over comply or die. The authoritarian approach is compassionless, self-righteous, and destructive. It even opens the door to such obvious immorality as, you led a good life, but since you didn't pray to me, you will spend eternity in hell. Or, you led a horrible life, but since you prayed to me at the last moment, you get to spend eternity in heaven. Both of these scenarios existing within various Abrahamic communities reflect a criminal degree of egomania on the part of the allegedly just and merciful God. Where was I? I have a theory that this book is excellent. Okay, caught up. I don't think that involves me. The humanistic approach, which is to say the approach informed by experience with actual humans, assumes the necessity, ability, and desire to learn, and creates the opportunity and encouragement for learning to happen. It gently but firmly says, no, that's wrong. Now here's another chance to get it right. Oh, that's good, well done. As authoritarians create hell in the here and now, they take the egregious sins of the in-crowd in stride while they gleefully demonize and punish and sometimes terrorize, assault, and kill people in the out-crowd just for being in the out-crowd. At the time of this writing, in the 2020s, this is very much on display in the United States and in much of the rest of the world. Beginning with the mass murder of pagans by the early church, Christianity is responsible for such obvious terror and slaughter as the Crusades and the Inquisition, centuries of religions wars in Europe in which they mostly killed other Christians, persecutions and mass murders of heretical Christian communities, and more. The Catholic Church's own archives document its collaboration with the Nazis for reasons ranging from naked anti-Semitism to not wanting to risk alienating German Catholics. The same church also helped some Jews during the Holocaust, but that doesn't wipe out cooperating with people devoted to the genocide of the Jews, Roma, Slavs, Poles, Ukrainians, Serbs, Russians, Africans, gays, people with disabilities, and all capitalists and leftist political opponents. Christianity is responsible as well for such open secrets as the torture, rape, and murder of indigenous people, and destruction of their cultures. To this day, several Christian groups continue to One sec. Okay. Lost my page. Lost my page. Christianity is back to hating on Christianity. Christianity is responsible as well for such open secrets as the torture, rape, and murder of indigenous people and destruction of their cultures. To this day, several Christian groups continue to denigrate and oppress women and LGBTQ people while simultaneously protecting clerics who have repeatedly raped children. Two of the most anti-democratic, anti-humanist forces active today, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, that's ISIS, on the world stage, and Christian fundamentalism in the United States, provide a contemporary illustration of what happens when religion and power are combined. Powerful religions justify and celebrate holy wars by one name or another, and at least permit, if not actively encourage, oppression and murder. You might say this is not religion itself, but what some people do with it and what that they shouldn't. Religion is good, it just shouldn't be misused. That is exactly parallel to saying guns don't kill people, people kill people. The data says that getting rid of the guns always radically reduces murders, suicides, and accidental deaths, no matter who the people are. Reading history says that the combination of religion and power is always a very bad thing for people, no matter who the people are or which religion they profess. Those who wish to defend their religion or religion in general should then also be sufficiently critical, vocal, and active in the service of improving the consequences of religious identity, both for those inside and outside of any particular religious group. Quote, "Whether one is rich or poor, educated or illiterate, religious or non-believing, man or woman, black, white, or brown, we are all the same. Physically..." Didn't we already... Yes, we already read this quote. He's repeating the quote. I was thinking about a time I visited a monk village, and I asked the question about evil that you all discussed before. Don't worry about it. I know you were driving. I wanted to tell you that Father, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. The one that was tending the potatoes garden, with his robes riddled with dirt and cow shit, he said to me, "Welcome back." I just love the juxtaposition there. If there were no night, we wouldn't know day. No cold, we wouldn't know warmth. The same with good and evil. God gave both and free will, so that choosing has meaning. Can't say I agree with that. For various reasons. I won't get into it, but I don't agree with that. I think this often, but everyone in this community is so smart. Absolutely. I know the word choice is ironic, but I really am so blessed to have you guys. I just made some videos online and you guys did the rest. Thank you. Time teaches people that time doesn't teach people. Yeah. The timing of my welcome back was horrendous. Or fantastic. Repeating the question, who cares what other people think? I hope you do. We believe what we think, and we act on what we believe. Our historical and contemporary records both reveal gigantic amounts of pain, suffering, and death due to what we believe. It would be bad enough if we only harmed each other and suffered for things that are true. Harm and suffering for what is demonstrably not true is a lifestyle choice and an evil one. I care what religious ideas people hold because rather than being harmless as it is so often supposed, beliefs are in fact deadly on a global scale. I think we can make a better choice than that. We have a history from long before recorded history of doing terrible things based on what we believe, much of it justified on the spurious grounds of religion, ethnicity, gender, or other differences that don't inherently need to divide us. Our focus on differences blinds us to how very much we have in common and the utter completeness of our individual and collective responsibility for our feelings, thoughts, and behavior toward others. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Yes. You don't just make some videos onto YouTube. Yeah, I do! Made something that resonated with the right people. Okay, that's true. You did a lot, so we have to thank you just as much as you thank us. Okay, well, thank you too. You're welcome. I really value this community and how cool all of you people are. This is like a safe space for me, and I actively look for. It means a lot to me, Asuka. And I feel the same way. I feel totally. I'm just as vulnerable with all of you as like with close friends. Okay, maybe not as I don't tell you like my phone number, but like generally speaking, I'm pretty unfiltered on stream, and you guys have taught me that I can be, so thank you. What are we each responsible for? Spend 2 weeks operating as if you are not responsible for anything. It's hard to even imagine, isn't it? How would you function? How would you keep your job? How would you interact with the people in your life, or your pet, or even houseplants? How would you even brush your teeth? Okay, so we know we are responsible for many things. We can fix that. What's your phone number? Spend 2 weeks being as conscious as possible about your active and passive roles in what happens and doesn't happen, close to you and in the larger world. It's overwhelming, isn't it? Okay, so we know that time, energy, awareness, influence, and numerous factors will necessarily limit our impact. One cannot be responsible for everything. In practice, we each need to achieve a sustainable level of responsibility that balances respect for others and respect for self, while honoring the constrained availability of time, energy, expertise, influence, money, and other resources. Don't press yourself to be more than you realistically can be in a given span of time, but neither should you let yourself off the hook too easily. Quote, "It is not your responsibility to finish the work of perfecting the world, but you are not free to desist from it either." Rabbi Tarfon. Quote, "I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good I can do. Jana Stanfield. Quote, if the goal is noble, whether or not it is realized within our lifetime is largely irrelevant. What we must do, therefore, is to strive and persevere and never give up. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Quote, on the mountains of truth, you can never climb in vain. Either you will reach a point higher up today, or you will be training your powers so that you will be able to climb higher tomorrow. Friedrich Nietzsche. Find the part that is yours to do, to make yourself the best you can be, and to contribute what you can to those closest to you. Periodically, be mindful about what good and bad you contribute to those at a greater distance. Such inspection can lead to profound growth in what we take on, in what we achieve, in how we answer the question, who am I? In that what we help others to do and what we leave for others to do without us. Hey, thanks for the Prime subscription, Aaliyah. Today's the only day you can say happy birthday, Hatsune Miku. Really? You came out on August 31st? Huh. Or do you mean that she will never have a birthday again? This is the only day you can say happy birthday, Hatsune Miku. I always thought of March 9th as the Hatsune Miku day because it's San-kyu, which is, but it's also Miku. Just look at the wall and remember that you are cherished, as are all the members of this community. Yes. Look at the wall because there's Jesus Christ, there's people on it. There's cool people on it. Aren't you on it? Maybe not. This might have been before your time. I can't remember. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself and hope things get better for you. I really think they are. I really think things are improving for me. There are some external factors that I'm waiting on, so I don't really know. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay. Tomorrow comes, which is an exact contradiction to what I said earlier. Really need to figure out how subs work on Twitch sometime. Also, however Miku get associated with Soundwave from Transformers. What? Oh my god, happy birthday, Miku. Oh, you're not on it. Oh, it's okay. It's totally fine. But yes, that is a very treasured treasure from the community to me. That's actually what motivated for me to actually get my posters out of boxes and put things up on the wall. Before that poster, it was just white. We are too motivated. That's not what I expected the next section to be titled. Intelligent conclusions depend on two components, ability and motivation. When something happens and we don't know the meaning, mechanism, and reason for its occurrence, it discomforts us. That discomfort motivates us to find answers. The good news is that everything people have figured out is due to this discomfort. There's no intelligence or progress without that discomfort. The bad news is that we find not knowing so intolerable that when we don't find real answers quickly, we tend to latch onto any pseudo answer that will reduce that discomfort. When we cannot determine meaning, mechanism, and reason, we should remain confident. We have figured out a lot of things in the past, and so we'll probably figure this out too. For some reason, we don't see this, or we are too anxious to wait. So we just make up answers, or adopt other people's made-up answers instead of patiently persevering. We don't like to admit it, we love to deny it, but it's true. Then, because we know at some level that unprovable answers are not real answers, we defend our chosen fabrications to the death so we don't have to admit our insecurity and our folly, and return to the apparently intolerable discomfort of simply saying, I don't know. Well gone dry? That woman I saw by the well must be a witch who put a spell on it. Meaning of life when life is so hard? This life is just a prerequisite for the next life, which will be so much better if we're deserving. Members of my tribe are in distress. Members of some inherently evil other tribe control all the banks, take all the jobs, create bad governments. Perhaps the most mundane recurrence of this is found in the workplace. Few things are more threatening to your job than replying to questions with, "I don't know." You almost never hear this simple sentence in a work environment. It's that deadly. On the rare occasion that it leaks out, "But I'll find out," rushes right after it, hoping to pass by the horrifying "I don't know" before it fully registers. Here's another workplace version. "Bob said that the problem with our product is Tom's fault? Well, that's much better than investigating further and possibly seeking my own contribution to the problem. To not know or to make a mistake is a completely normal aspect of life that we bizarrely treat as if they are capital crimes. Banishing 'I don't know' in favor of fictional certainty is most abundantly illustrated in and is emblematic of religious thought. As such, I am inclined to call this the religious impulse. Actually, I think that's a great word for it. We explain by unverifiable belief what we cannot or do not want to explain rationally, and to then defend belief itself as the greatest good, as something that only a horrible person would ever question. Most people identify with one religion or another, and all of us, including me, constantly use small and large beliefs to cover what lies beyond the bits we can reach with intellectual rigor. So why would I antagonize more or less all of my readers with this radically unpolitic yet familiar assertion that all religion is just stuff we made up when we could not explain something rationally? I do so because our collective denial of this extremely obvious observation has been a major factor in war after war, in slavery, racism, xenophobia, misogyny, and other inhumane treatment of people, and in resistance to scientific progress and artistic expression. Our collective denial of this inescapable and obvious truth is a powerhouse of evil, from mild prejudice to murder, from pettiness to persecution to world war. We must acknowledge our incessant tendency to just make up what is not actually so, and then cling to it without even noticing that it's what we're doing. Then we must grapple with it as if our lives depend on it, because they do. Feelings are not evidence of facts. Many people report that meditating gives them a blissful, subjective experience of peacefully being at one with everything. That sounds lovely. As a modern person, you can probably appreciate that feeling without taking it. You can probably appreciate that feeling without taking it as a literal truth. When you say you feel at one with everything, you mean that you feel very peaceful. You do not mean that you have realized that you and the dust speck on the other side of the universe are literally one. You do not mean that there is no difference or boundary between you and the worst person you know, or that your love for them is now limitless. But to an ancient meditator or a modern religionist, mere feeling is commonly miscast as if it were evidence. In the case of meditation, feeling at one with the universe is evidence that everything actually, literally is one. In pre-scientific cultures, or in pre-scientific thinking today, what a way to put that. A very good explanation for a feeling is that the feeling reveals a truth. Sometimes feelings do reveal truths, but the feeling is a suggestion of what might be true, not proof of what is true. It's best we take brain chemistry, neural activity, psychology, culture, circumstances, and subjectivity into account. Some people think that chanting Om with a very drawn-out M sound while meditating is powerful because Om is the most fundamental sound of the universe. Actual data say that repetitive chanting is hypnotic and that drawing out the M sound, humming, stimulates our nasal passages to significantly increase nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide has powerful positive health effects along multiple physiological pathways. I find that, I want to say that again, humming's good for you. Humming is literally good for you. Warm chemicals in the brain. Good old warm chemicals. I find the objective facts about hypnotic effects and nitric oxide production more compelling than untestable assertions about the relative ranking of sounds in the universe. I hope you do too. And I hope the kind of critical thinking you use when analyzing other people's beliefs is the same thinking you use when considering your own beliefs. Untestable assertions are untestable assertions, no matter who voices them. Evidence of better explanations is evidence, no matter who doesn't like it. I want to stop here and say that this is not about religion anymore. This is something we all do. Whenever somebody disagrees with us, we immediately start looking for reasons that they're wrong. We do not do the same thing when we consider our own beliefs, and we need to. I'm not saying be less critical of other people's beliefs. We should be critical, not critical as in like, that's wrong, you should change, but critical as in, are they right? Let me think about that. Maybe they are. And we need to do the same with our own beliefs, because neither of us has any credential saying that we're more right. Unless we do, in which case you should defer to the person with the higher credential. So I got a message from somebody. Some of you might remember that I had a small meltdown on the Discord server because I had some very strong feelings about the video game strike that was going on at the time, and I pretty aggressively put my foot down and said that what I believe is correct and you either agree with me or you leave. And that was an extreme stance for me to take. But when somebody called me out for it and said that they were concerned by my unwillingness to hear another perspective, I was like, I've been a professional actor for 10 years. It's my union that's on strike. I will tell you how this works because I do know and you do not. So, like, when one party is more knowledgeable than another, that should be respected. But when you're on the same page, such as we are both humans in a world that doesn't make sense to us, we've got to treat everybody's ideas equal until proven otherwise. Human humming is like cat purring? Kinda. Sorry if that's an awkward thing to bring up, my outburst from before. I don't mean it to be. I truly consider that water under the bridge, and I hope everyone else does too. I don't consider it uncomfortable to bring up. But if it is, sorry. I wish people would respect when you're more knowledgeable. I think that is becoming a really dangerous absence in our society. Like the I don't want to be mean, but that guy was amazing. I don't actually know what you're referring to. The guy who brought that up to me? Yeah, I got where he was coming from. I just profoundly disagree. But I think that there is a problem in modern society where we really are getting into the, what is it? My dad probably says it in this book. He's always saying to me, people are so into the idea that my feeling outranks your professional knowledge. No, it doesn't. That's not true. Oh, amazing in a bad way. I mean, he was brave. He stood up for what he believed in. And so did I. Dissidents currently drowning in the currents of rap. Jesus. Obviously, there's knowledgeable people that actually don't know nothing. Hence why it's always important to either question things or take things with a grain of salt. Yes. But sometimes people just feel too entitled at being right when they aren't. Yeah. Very true. That's the thing, right? It all comes back to critical thinking. We have to really aggressively vet every single fact and opinion that enters our heads. Because if we don't, no one's going to do it for us. They'll just tell us to believe what they already do, which is probably unfiltered, statistically. So, yeah. I mean, I think, as we know that Buddha said from much earlier in this book, he never says, do what I do. He says, learn what you can from the words that I say. He knows that the things he says and the way he says them are not universally applicable, and they certainly aren't over centuries of history and translations to different languages. He understands that everybody has to make their own conclusions to a degree, right? Like, the entire point of scientists is that they study things so that we have time to do anything else. They spend their entire lives learning things so we don't have to. We should put faith in scientists. That's their function, is for us to put faith in them. That's the function of expertise. That's why you hire an electrician instead of doing it yourself and electrocuting yourself. So you've got to be humble, but you've also got to put your foot down when you know you're right. And actually, I go into that a little in my coming video essay, which I finished the script for last night. Ooh! Remember, though, that editing is the most time-consuming part of video production, so it's not close. It's not close to release, but I'm working on a video for Ori and the Blind Forest's first 10 minutes. I'm always right if I can change my mind. I can't believe it's not butter. Pazer killed me! I'd like to report a murder. Pazer killed me. Ah! Anyway, where were... I should drink water. Yeah, I had to duck down. I was given a high five to the gremlin who lives under my desk. Stretch break! Everybody stretch! Get out of your chair! Get out of your chair! Or don't. I'm not your mom. Alright, we've been going 2 hours, 40 minutes. I'll get to a stopping point and we'll wrap up for today. Fuck. Where were we? Wait. Nope, did that. Okay, here we are. In the past and now, sometimes people become so engrossed in something or in nothing that they either become very focused or very peacefully unfocused. Both of these are meditative states. I do it a lot. I am the king of hyperfocus. Okay, thank you very much for coming, Accord. Always a pleasure to have you. Don't forget to DM me so I can get you a book. Both of these are meditative states. Within different cultural contexts, people in several places and times have purposefully developed this into the intentional practices we recognize as different forms of meditation. In ancient India, when it was frequently observed that medium to deep meditation often gave rise to serene feelings, unbothered by anything, at peace with everything just as it is, pre-scientific meditators came up with an explanation that was sensible in the context of the ambient thinking of their culture. They concluded that meditation is a tool for revealing the hidden but ultimate truth that all is one, and enlightenment consists of experiencing this fully and being at peace with everything just as it is. By corollary, the end of suffering requires the elimination of all the illusions and distortions interposed between us and this ultimate reality, being between us and being at peace with what is actually so. The reason this pre-scientific pseudo-explanation appears to work is not because the truth is all is one. The truth is that meditation makes us feel peaceful and shifts our metabolism into a comfortable, calm state conducive to rest and repair. We may temporarily feel as if all is one and that we are at peace with everything just as it is, but we actually know that this isn't true. We can't even comprehend everything, let alone be at peace with all the horrible bits. Meditation produces a great feeling and numerous other benefits. It is not in itself a revealed truth, it's a revealed feeling. Praising and ritualizing meditation, or prayer, or other devotional practices enhances the emotional impression that this is something special, cosmic, sacred. That mystical aura drives us away from what is so and into the world of illusion. Recall that meditation is meant to have the exact opposite effect, to be our best tool for escaping the world of illusion and correctly perceiving what is so. Like fake medicine, mysticism distracts us from what is true and gets in the way of us utilizing what is actually of most value. Meditation and other devotional practices are valuable due to what they induce in our minds and bodies, not due to what they allegedly connect with in the imaginary realm of the supernatural. If we are to work with the Buddhist tenet of stripping away illusions so we can perceive what is actually so, and thereby reduce and ultimately end suffering, we must not begin by ignoring our better, more contemporary knowledge of what is so. Meditation is psychologically and physiologically good for you, as shown in one scientific study after another. Buddha is so non-dogmatic that even he instructs us to deviate from his own teaching if it has outlived its usefulness. The great oneness theory of meditation has outlived its usefulness. We have better explanations today. We have demonstrated that meditation not only improves blood pressure, but also diabetes. We have demonstrated that it not only calms us in the moment, but helps reduce long-standing behavioral problems. Footnote, meditation has amazingly far-ranging benefits beyond the few mentioned here. See my upcoming book, Even You Can Meditate. Not published yet. If we embrace what we know is so, instead of clinging to traditional stories, we can more effectively make life better. For me, that is the goal. Improving our understanding of what is so in order to make our lives better. Our explanatory stories, including the ones we have today, are just what we find credible at a point in time. They suggest what is really so, but are not reality itself. They should be utilized as tools until something better comes along, not believed as infallible truths and defended to the death. Even our most certain facts are just the best stories we have developed so far. And that is the end of that chapter. Ancient idiot. I didn't say that! I just missed the N. Let me scroll up and catch up on chat. That's one thing I absolutely hate about the climate crisis, says Inrevenant. The politicians are absolutely not showing that they respect the professional scientists enough when it comes to the findings of climate scientists. The scientists are basically screaming at the politicians at this point, and the latter refuse to listen. I think that is a completely accurate description of the situation. For basically our entire lives, and probably forever, ever. I don't think it was always this bad, but scientists are always given the unenviable task of having to remind people that they know things, which is their job. The point of it. In feudal England. Wait, no. Yeah, in feudal England, the king had an advisor. Why, you ask? Because the king was usually stupid and didn't know things, so he had an advisor. Scientists are modern advisors. They think so we don't have to. About that stuff, anyway. Are you guys familiar with Brian David Gilbert? He has this video that's, like, he does a Skyrim book report where he read every single text in Skyrim and ranked them. Not all of them, but, like, categorized them as good, bad, and whatnot. And then at the end, he says, "How dare you jettison my gift?" And I think about that sentence a lot. It's what the scientists are saying in this scenario. Anyway. Sure, you can say that the politicians have a motive to keep the election base happy with short-term interests too, but then it should be the combined job effort of politicians and scientists together to teach the election base about why the climate is important to prioritize. But that would require the politicians to have the public's interests at heart and revenant, you see. And we have overall been pretty consistent in electing people who don't have that, especially one particular side of the spectrum. It's really infuriating seeing them speak so confidently about things they literally know. Do you guys remember, it's probably like 15 years ago now, where there was some like Republican senator or something in the US who was like, yeah, we don't have to worry about abortion bans in the context of rape pregnancies, because if a woman doesn't want to be pregnant, she just won't be. That man made more in a year than I've ever seen in my life. It's good to be intolerant of things you should be intolerant of. And I'm very intolerant of that bullshit. Anyway, wow, the king is just like me. Long-awaited sequel to Ancient Aliens premieres this fall. Ancient Idiots! Only on the History Channel. Alright, my throat is dry. I'm gonna drink some water, and I don't know, maybe some tea, and I don't know, maybe something. You're homeless, just buy a house. There was that, when Mitt Romney was up for election in the US, I think that was 2008. I remember a meme going around that was him just saying, like, why don't poor people just buy more money? Court jesters were actually pretty important too. Yes, they were. Their primary function in the court was to play on, exaggerate with a sense of humor and sarcasm, basically as a live translator for regals who weren't that good at the cloak and dagger part. That I did not know. What I did know is that they were used for, like, honestly, as a distraction for everybody involved in the room. Just if things are getting too tense, it's like, hey, the court jester is actually smarter than all of you combined and has something funny to say. Oh, look at him. Don't kill each other. Look at him. Legalese and regalese. My favorite jester was the dude who could fart on command, and he got land for it! Amazing. Alright guys, well, thank you again for coming to my highly opinionated, very controversial stream. It really is valuable to me that even in parts where we may disagree, we are able to make space for each other and respect each other. I think that's a really important part of making the world a better place, and that is why I read this book on stream, and that is why I make the videos I do. So thank you for being a part of that. Thank you for being an audience for my words. And I hope to have a video out to you within the coming month. Fingers crossed. Roland the Farter. Good ol' Roland. Okay, guys. Be kind to yourselves and be kind to each other. I will see you later. Bye.